A lot of the time you don't register the important moments as they happen. You only see that they were important when you look back.
Seatbelt?
Fuck seatbelts. Take your top off.
I think I'm stuck.
Do you think it's going to explode?
It's not a film.
I might be able to fix it. We can't just leave it here.
Do you reckon you can still fix it?
Why is no one stopping?
Probably because you've got your tits out. No one stops the weirdos except other weirdos.
Do you want a lift?
Come on.
I am going to be so fucked off if we get murdered.
Hello once again, watchers of Good TV. My name is Nick Pell, and this is my review of The End of the Fucking World. Now, this is a show which premiered back in the UK back in, I believe, October sometime. Netflix has picked it up and made it a original Netflix special of sorts, and now we have it on Netflix. It debuted this weekend, and so I ended up watching the whole 8 episodes all the way through one sitting. And so let's talk about the first season of The End of the Fucking World. Now, the premise of the show is very, very unique. We have James, who is played by Alex Lothar, and he is a self-proclaimed psychopath. He has killed animals, he has seen kind of messed up things throughout his life, and he decides, just when he's 17, he wants to kill somebody to see how that feels. So he ends up meeting this new girl, Alyssa, played by Jessica Barden, and they end up being friends and becoming a couple, and he decides, oh, she's the one I'd be wanting to kill because she'd be interesting. And Alyssa, of course, has her own messed up life. She has a really douchey stepdad. Her mom is kind of obedient to him to an extent, and she just has a very bad life. And while she's not as mentally crazy, I put that in quotes, as James is throughout the show, she does have her own things that she's dealing with, and it's really interesting to see her perspective on certain things that are happening. And by the end of the first episode, they just decide, we're going to take off, we're going to leave our boring, stupid lives, and just go away and have an adventure, essentially. Things, of course, go awry with that plan, and we have our show. Main thing I have to praise with the show is the chemistry between the two main leads. They are pretty much what make the show work as well as it does, and so I have to really applaud them. Their chemistry works fantastically when you get to hear basically voiceovers of what they're thinking in their minds, whether it be in the first half, where James is thinking, oh, hey, I could kill her this way, or I should kill her now, or it's not the right opportunity. Things which are kind of going on in his mind in that sense. And then you have Alyssa kind of thinking of other things. And it's just kind of interesting to see that contrast be showcased so well. There's also an immense amount of character development which takes place through the course of the show, primarily with James, but you also see it with Alyssa as well throughout the course of the show. Because he goes from this seemingly unfeeling sociopathic psychopath who wants to kill somebody, very different person by the end of the first season. So it's really interesting to see that transition play out over the course of the 8-episode season. And while the show does kind of take its time in the first 2 episodes, kind of setting up its characters, setting up its premise, showing us all the main characters that are going to be involved throughout the course of the show, it is episode 3, which really just takes this thing off and just lets it loose, because that introduces the core premise which really drives the rest of the show forward. Something happens, I won't say what, but something happens throughout the course of that episode where it just allows things to spiral out of control for these two characters throughout the remaining 5 episodes of the season. As a result, these two characters just seem very, very real, really realistic. You feel like they are teenagers, because every teenager, I think, has imagined at least running away from home, having this grand adventure with somebody or on their own or something of that sort. And these two people, they do that, and so you get to see that showcased throughout the show, see how they change throughout the course of it, and see what adventures they ultimately have, as well as just illegal things that they end up doing as well, and just the way they speak and things of that sort. It really fits with the characters, and as well as just how they progress throughout the show. And so as a result, the only thing that I didn't really like was the 5th episode, I believe, of the show, which is where they are apart for the majority of the episode. It still worked and was fine, the performances were just as good, but because that chemistry and that cognitivity was not there for the majority of the episode, it just didn't really feel quite as good or quite as fun to watch. Though, like I said, it's really, really good. You can pretty much watch this whole show in one sitting in about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. That's what I did, and I was not bored whatsoever, really. And so with that said, I do want to touch on the finale of this season, just really, really briefly. So if you have not watched the end of the fucking world season 1 yet, probably stop watching here unless you want the finale spoiled for you. Just know that I highly recommend it. It's very, very well done show, very good show, and it's on Netflix. So if you have that, it's well worth your time and really, really easy to get access to. So, spoilers now. I'm going to touch on the finale of season 1 right after this, and so you have been warned. So in the events of the finale, we have James and Alyssa. They have reached her dad's trailer. They've been living there for a little bit. He runs over a dog, leaves them. They have to find their way back. They end up sleeping on the beach, and one of the cops, which has been pursuing them throughout the course of the show, she ends up finding them, confronting them. Alyssa ends up knocking her out, and they take off for the beach, try to get into the boat. The boat is way too far away from the water to really do anything. And so James, showing his full character development and seeing how much he's progressed throughout the course of the show, basically sacrifices himself for Alyssa. He knocks her out so she won't chase after him, takes full responsibility for the murder that they did, and just runs off onto the beach. And the last thing that we see is a gunshot as just a black screen shows up, and that's all we get. And I was pissed about that because I want to know what happens to James. Does he survive the gunshot wound if he got shot? Did somebody else get shot? What the fuck's happening? I did look into it a little bit, and I found out that the show is based on a comic which was done by somebody. And it sounds like the end of that comic run does pretty much coincide with the end of this first season, in which James does ultimately sacrifice himself for Alyssa, and I don't know what happens after that point. But the way that they leave it just kind of hanging there at the end of season 1, it could lead into that. We don't know. But I feel like if the show does do well enough on Netflix, and I don't know how well it did in Britain, or the UK, but if it does well enough, I feel like we could get a second season. I don't know how well those usually work when they go off book. Generally, it's not the best, in my opinion. But I would love to see more adventures of James and Alyssa, see where they can go from here. Maybe do a time jump of sorts. Maybe show him in jail, show her trying to break him out or something. I don't know. There's a lot to be left open because there's so many plot holes which I want filled with this show. And just seems to leave everything up in the air. I really hope the show gets a second season. The finale was really, really good, and I'd really love to see where these actors end up being able to take these characters if the show goes on for a couple more seasons. But guys, those are my thoughts on the end of the fucking world season 1. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, share, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I'd appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.